Oh, hi! This week, we're gonna try a wrap skirt that I've never done one before somehow. And I did use a pattern that's available for free on the website. I'll link in the description. Not sponsored or anything. It's a free pattern. But they are taking the site down and they're gonna stop offering the patterns as of midnight tonight. I didn't find out about this until Sunday. I'm filming this on a Tuesday. So I kind of rushed to get this project together so that if y'all wanted to give a wrap skirt a go, the option is there if you see this the day the video is going up. So I'm sorry there's not more of like a heads up on this. I'm doing what I can. This skirt pattern is by someone I've been following on Instagram for a couple of years, I think. I didn't even know that she had a pattern company. I did cheat on my no buy year and I bought 2 of the dress patterns. There's only 3 patterns on the site. One's this free wrap skirt. The other 2 are the purchasable ones. But I'm not gonna feel guilty about buying these patterns because I have been ogling these style dresses that she's made for ages. These specific cuts. So these are definitely gonna get made. It's using fabric that I have stuff for, so it's gonna get me to use more of my stash, which is the point of my no buy year, is to use up what I have in house. And they're not gonna be available once this year is over. So it would be a completely missed opportunity and I'm not gonna do that to myself. I'm excited to make those dresses. I have one of the patterns printed out. Christ, doing PDF patterns is a pain in the ass. I've done like small accessories, you know, like a face mask thing I've printed out. I made some slipper boots for some of my patrons and I used the free Tilly and the Buttons slipper boot pattern for that, which was actually so much fun to put together. Let me know if you want to see how that goes together, especially because it is a free pattern. It's just easier for everyone to have access to it. I would love to make myself a pair or make more for other people, so let me know. And I'm totally down to do that because I also have a ton of fleece to continue using up. But that's like 6 or 8 pattern pieces together. Not this 35 to 40 sheet debacle that happened. It stressed me out. Also, anything that involves printing, I was already in a bad way. I've been having just a hard time in general lately. I'm having a big sad and there's nothing to be done about it other than try to continue existing and trying so hard to be kind to myself during this, because on certain days the more I fight it, the worse it gets, and then I get upset and resentful about it. So I'm just trying to listen to myself and not be too harsh and do what I can. Like, I feel good when I'm sewing. I feel good when I'm learning stuff. I don't feel good when I'm switching serger threads and it doesn't go smoothly. So I did use the wrong color serger thread on this project, but this was a practice piece and not intended to be worn. So again, not gonna put myself through the stressful thing that makes me mad every time I have to do it, and just enjoy the sewing process. If I'm coming at you with some somber energy, that is because I've been down lately and it happens, and I'm trying to just roll with it and take care of myself while also knowing it will eventually pass. I have a flannel on that I've actually done 2 video projects with, like doing fun little alterations. This is my dog fart cat bar flannel, which it makes me giggle every time I wear it. I'm also wearing a skirt that I've altered before. That makes me feel good. And I put makeup on for the first time in at least 6 months. You know, it's fine. I tried a winged eyeliner thing I've been seeing for people with hooded eye, but I had fun putting it on, and that's when I like to wear makeup, is when I have fun doing it. You know what? I'm gonna go dig out some earrings too, because I haven't worn earrings in probably about a year. Heck yeah. You know? Especially when my hair is up, I do feel a lot more confident when I have nice long earrings on and they're real dangly. These especially make me feel badass because like they're little dangly stars on chains that I made, and there's always something extra empowering about wearing stuff that I've made. I also obviously have my shoulder and neck heating pad, just the biggest game changer. I've been so much more comfortable the past 2 months since I was gifted this for Christmas from one of my best friends. And so many of you have been like, hi, where did you get that? Because I need one. So yeah, this is a Sunbeam brand, which I think is a pretty affordable one. We get heated blankets and just like regular flat heating pads from that company, but any variation of this I think will help, because I know a lot of you are also crafters and are constantly hunched over sewing machines and craft tables. So do yourself a kindness if you can swing it. I'm completely spoiled and get sent stuff like this because my friends are just like the most thoughtful human beings on the planet, and they send me things I didn't even know I needed. That is where I'm at today, is I'm just trying to really soak up every bit of appreciation that I feel for the people in my life and what I get to do. Just genuinely focusing on the positive good things, because there's so much to focus on that's shit and crap and unfair and infuriating and like heart-wrenching and gutting. And I think I've been stewing in that too much and letting myself kind of circle the drain with those kinds of thoughts. And yes, it's hard to avoid that on some days. There's also so much good and so much kindness and so much support and community. There is so much to be thankful for. And I know, we just took an immediate nosedive deep in the cheese, but It's what's keeping me together today. So I thought I would try to focus on that while talking to y'all about the thing that I made. Real talk, I had a hard time reading this pattern, and this happens with commercial patterns too, and this is why I hype up the Tilly and the Buttons patterns. I get so overwhelmed when there's a wall of text. Not that the person that made this wrap skirt pattern used overly complicated terms I'm unfamiliar with or anything, but there weren't a lot of pictures to go off of, and I just could not process the words that I was reading into my brain. I couldn't make sense of any of it. It's very possible that it's just where I've been at this week, that I can't compute that information, because that happens pretty regularly with me, actually. I'm very much a hands-on learner. Like if I'm watching a video, I have to kind of do the thing along with the video with it in my hands and try to get the hang of it if someone can't directly show me how to do it in person. But I haven't found any videos about this particular skirt, so I decided to go rogue pretty quickly with this. There are some steps I did that the instructions said to do that I understood completely from the get-go, and I wouldn't have done without being told to in that booklet I got. I tried a new foot that I've never used on my machine before because they used a different kind of foot for the hemming. So it was a mix of learning new stuff, but also improvising with like what I have in the back of my brain that I kind of forgot was in the back of my brain, which was also cool. Anyway, into the project, shall we? I printed out all of these pages at the goddamn Staples self-serve print shop. Not that the actual self-serve print shop is frustrating, but the process of figuring out PDFs. I'm an old, and I am not tech savvy at all, even though I do a lot of my work on the internet. I'm just bad at computer things. That was a whole morning saga of trying to get the PDF situation and like zip folder thing to work. Then I went to print this skirt and tried to print 2 of the dresses because I bought the other 2 dresses, as I said. And there were also some bag patterns I was sent by my fairy god Cheryl, who also sent me the fabric I use in this project. Only this skirt and one of the dresses seemed to go through whatever like email service you're supposed to use to send stuff to Staples. And I'm sure it's user error where it seems like a pretty streamlined process, but I just couldn't get 3 of the 5 things to go. And that's okay. That's 2 patterns. I'm not in a rush to get all the patterns, but I figured if I'm gonna go out into the world, should get all of them done at once, no? So yes, taping all of this together, I was having a rough day when I was working on this. So doing something that is already seemingly frustrating was maybe not the best choice because it just put me in a worse and worse mood. I got frustrated at the imprecision of this type of pattern construction. I just felt like there was so much room for error where that's not the case with regular patterns. It's just all printed in one go. If y'all have advice on how to do PDFs in a less hair pulley outy way, please let me know. I'm very brand new to this, so I probably went about it in like the most overly complicated way possible, as I tend to do. It seems like there's got to be an option to like have it printed on bigger paper at the print shop, although like probably can't use the self-serve thing for that. But this made me want to avoid any and all PDF pattern options in the future. But because of the age we live in, that's kind of the only option for some pattern companies. Like even the Tilly and the Buttons patterns, there's a bunch that are PDF only, and this is making me not want to do any of those. You can also see where I cut all of this apart because it seemed to be getting wonky as I started on the actual skirt panels once I got the waistband pieces together. I just kind of hacked the 2 sections apart because I was getting very, very mad at it. So I just took a regular marker, and because some of these lines are so forever long and it's all the same line work for each size, where some patterns it's like these are dashes and these are dots and stuff like that. Yeah, I just colored in which one I needed to cut on so that when I went around everything, I wasn't trying to, you know, keep track of, oh, was I 3 from the end or 4 from the end? And then, as I said, I probably overcomplicated the process of piecing all of these together. Rather than trim an entire edge of one of the sides of the pattern pieces, because you get to line up those triangles, I cut out one side of each type of triangle on each piece so that when I laid it on top, I just had those lines to match up and not the entire edge because I don't have a paper cutter, so that seems like a lot of work. So again, if you have other techniques that are helpful to make this process go smoother, please let me know because, oh my god, I can't keep doing this. Then yeah, these are the 3 pieces I have. There's a skirt back that you need 4 of, and there's the skirt front that you need 2 of. When I cut the waistband pieces out, I did just fold the thing in half. I then got distracted because someone came in to ask me a question while I was cutting the fabric and laying all of the stuff out, so I didn't actually put it on fold, so I had to cut an extra 1/2 inch so that I could piece the 2 halves together for each of the waistband pieces anyway. anyway, which like you can do if your fabric is not long enough to get this whole thing in one fell swoop. Have it cut in 2 pieces, but give yourself an extra 1/2 inch seam allowance since you'll have to be attaching it together. So I felt like a giant me head for that because I picked the fabric that I did because it was long enough to get 2 waistband pieces in one cut. So infuriating. I figured it out. It's okay. I've been lost here before, so I know how to get myself back. This was a good test in damage control for fucking things up. And that's honestly part of the skill set I have built in sewing, and I think it's important to learn how to troubleshoot because things aren't always going to go smoothly. So yes, I accidentally cut my waistband pieces off fold, can we say? I also got very stuck on the waistband construction instructions. So what I ended up doing is I ironed the whole waistband in half, wrong sides together, but then for the ends, I took 1/4 at each end, flipped them so they were right sides together, sewed that, you know, 1/4 of an inch in, and then I kind of tapered out the edge so that was like a nice rounded thing so it wasn't a blunt square bit, because that'll be the edge of the tie and probably be a visible part. So I wanted to give it a nice finish. You could do it at a 45-degree angle too. I think that's what they tell you to do in the instructions, but getting up to that point, I could not compute. So then I flipped that whole thing right side out on each end, and then the whole middle section was still unsewn because that's where it's going to be getting attached to the skirt. I stopped there and left the waistband alone and then constructed all of the skirt panels. Now normally I'd just sew them right sides together and then serge on the inside, but it did say to do French seams, which I haven't done a ton of, so it was good practice. There's a ton of pieces to put together, so it was lots of French seaming. I think it came out really nicely. And if you've never done French seams before, you sew the wrong sides together, which feels very counterintuitive and like pearl clutching a bit every time I have to do it. Once it's stitched, you press those seams open so they're laying nice and flat, and then you fold that whole thing right sides together, and then you do a line of stitching a little bit further in, and then yeah, that seam allowance, once both sets of French seaming were done, I top stitched that down to one side, facing towards the back when I could. So then before we attach the waistband, we have to hem the skirt because the edge pieces are rounded and like go up the sides. So the pattern calls for a rolled hem, which I don't have a foot for that, and I think there's a way to do it on the serger, but as previously discussed with not wanting to switch the threads, I certainly didn't want to fuck with it to the point that I would have a rolled hem set up. I have a pile of like personal selfish sewing that I'm going to be doing, and this is set up to do that, and I don't think I'll ever get that pile of stuff done if I fuck with the serger and something goes awry. So again, taking a self-care note, only do what I feel actually capable of handling. So I did take out my sewing manual to see what kind of options I had for special feet that I haven't tried yet, which was a bold move at 7 p.m. on a day where I was barely even speaking to anyone. I was so down. So I decided on what I was going to give a try, and then I tapped out for the day. Overnight and like in the morning, I was looking up videos on how to use a blind hemmer foot. Now I've used a blind hemming machine that only does this one type of stitching. It's an amazing machine. It has like a curved needle and it stitches sideways and there's no bobbin, and it looks amazing. And I didn't know that there was a way to kind of replicate that. I think with some finagling, I can get this to look pretty close to what I get with the actual blind hemming machine that I use, because I at least understand the theory of this, but I definitely need some fine tuning with how I went about this. So I started by pressing over my hemmed edge once. I did serge all of this because the thought of using pinking shears, which I did try, but they're right-handed pinking shears because I never use them, so I forgot that they're only right-handed, and the length of this hem is way too much to hand pink the entire edge. So serger it was just way faster to do it that way. So I pressed it up, and I took my time doing that because there's a lot of curved edges, and I know that like hemming circle skirts is kind of a nightmare to begin with, but I got it nice and pressed so this would go as smoothly as possible. And then when you do the blind hem foot, at least on my machine, it's a Husqvarna Viking. I imagine most hemming foots are the same. Mine is clear and plastic because it has an adjustable width on it, but that's definitely not necessary. I am also in the baby steps of learning about this. So we are learning about this together. And please, if you are more familiar with this foot than I am, like any tips are appreciated and advice. I want to get better at it because I feel like there's potential here. But you take your pressed edge, which is just whatever the regular hem is that you want taken up, flip it under, so there's almost like an S shape, a backwards S shape happening, and you feed it under the foot so that you're stitching a line along the flap that's going to get tucked underneath, so you're not going to see most of the stitches, and then every couple stitches there's one that pops through all the layers. And I think maybe narrowing the zigzag will help, though I was just going by what the manual told me to do. I went back over and pressed everything out. Obviously there's a lot of color changing in this fabric. It goes from red to white to blue, and I stuck with the white thread because I thought it would like be the most neutral of all of them. And it is a little bit too wide of a stitch for me. Like when I hand sew a blind hem, I am literally stitching through one thread on the outer fabric. So it is pretty much imperceptible. Is that even a word? I don't know. We're not going to think about it too much. So just to say it's much more discreet than this, because this clearly went through more threads in the weave of the outer fabric than I normally do by hand, and more than what the machines I use do. But that's where the fine tuning will come in. Just more practice. I did get it to look better the further along I went, because again, this was a forever long hem to do. So there was time and room to do some practicing. And that's what this whole garment is for. Like, I'm not gonna wear this. I don't mind Snoopy, but I'm not like, fuck yeah, love me some Charlie Brown, want to wear this out into the world. But it was the perfect fabric to work with because it's the same type of material that I have a lot of. So it was exactly the right thing to do a mock-up, which, as I have dedicated myself to doing this year, is helpful. And I'm learning so much, and I don't feel guilty when things don't look perfect because it's not the like final result. So I can do whatever tweaks and changes and adjustments as I go, as I fucking want. Important note here, I did wait to do the blind hemming attempt until this morning. I'm in a much better mood. This is the same day I'm filming right now, where I did all of the getting dressed up for no reason just to make myself feel better, and it seems to be helping. Also, drinking a lot of water and drinking tea and coffee, eating nutritious food, and getting lots of puppy snuggles. These are all very important. Plus it's cold, so I was actually very excited to do a ton of ironing today, where sometimes I'm not up for it. So yeah, the stitches are showing more than I would like, and I repressed it and it did help all of that lay flatter. I wasn't sure. I should have checked when I was partway into stitching the hem if it was even going to lie flat, but I was just very brazenly going ahead. So first, ask questions later. But I'm much more likely to remember how to do or not to do something if I've fucked it up before, rather than it going perfectly the first time, because I'm just going to be like, none of that stuck in my brain. There's no trauma associated with this first attempt. So yeah, once that was all hemmed, it was time to attach the waistband. So I just found the center points of the waistband and the skirt, and I lined that up. As you can see, I pressed up the other edge of the waistband because we're gonna stitch this unpressed edge right sides together waistband to skirt pieces, but then it's all gonna get flipped over and we're gonna top stitch that other finished edge, so almost making like a giant ass bias tape type thing. And now I haven't tried this on yet, so will you join me in front of the dog pen and see how this looks? Oh, the thing I wanted to mention, this has some range of sizes. I'm kind of right in the middle. As with every sewing pattern company, like there's a limit to the size range that it has. This particular skirt I think will be very easy to size up to whatever range you need it to go into, either by adding additional skirt back panels or the middle 4 panels, those skirt back pieces. If you draft your own circle skirt pattern, I'll link to the circle skirt calculator that I've used in previous videos down below, and I'll link to a video up here somewhere if you want to know that whole process. You just draw lines on a big piece of paper or write on the fabric if you want. Be bold with your choices. And then you just add the skirt front panels to either end. And honestly, I think you can just do one skirt front panel. I'm gonna wait to make that decision until I actually try it on, but I suspect I'm gonna like this more minus one of the skirt front panels. Okay, are we ready? Look at how much fabric this is. No wonder I needed 4.5 yards. Which side looks nicer? We'll have that on top. Like, I know you need some amount of overlap for a wrap skirt. There's enough overlap with this extra panel here that this could definitely fit someone with a bigger waist than me. Guess I'll wrap this around. Jesus Christ, this is so long. I don't know, I think it's supposed to have like a nice big bow in the front and wrap around like that. 10 out of 10 swish factor. This twirling. Oh, the joy of circle skirts, right? They're so much fun to make. Making a wrap skirt waistband, it was fun. I had fun making this. I feel like this kind of brought me out of my black abyss I felt like I was falling into the past couple days. At least temporarily. That's all I can ask for. I feel like as someone who grew up in the 90s, this would be very good out of like a nice soft flannel. Have a wraparound situation, I would wear the fuck out of that. So yeah, I don't know. I'm glad I went through the process of making this project. It's not gonna immediately go into my wardrobe, but I definitely learned a bunch. I think it's a good pattern pattern to mess around with. Like, it's a very good starting point for a lot of things. And like I said, just add where you need to make it a bigger size. As far as sewing patterns go, this seems like a pretty good one to fuck around with in that manner. So I hope this helps in some way. I wish I had known about the pattern company sooner so I could have given you a bigger heads up, but at least if you see this the day of and you want to give a free pattern a try, it's available till midnight, I believe, on the 12th of February, 2021. And yeah, I am very, 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 very excited to try her dress patterns because I have been pining over figuring out the pattern making process for specifically the dresses that she wears in a lot of her posts. And I feel like I've gotten a treasure map to find the perfect dream golden chest of sorts, you know? I do need to cover that part of me, so we'll go with that. I am so thankful that I had this project to help me this week, because yeah, it's Tuesday. Sunday and Monday, I just didn't feel like much of a person, and that sucks. It really sucks when I'm in it. It already feels better from working on a project, and that is the gift that sewing gives me on a regular basis. Yes, there are frustrating times where I just want to throw my machine at a wall and never look at a piece of fabric again, but that's not too often, and even when I have struggles, I just take a little time away and come back, and I always feel better once I get through a project, even if it doesn't go exactly right. Very, very grateful to get to spend the time on this kind of stuff that I do, and that is entirely because of everyone over on my Patreon. The support I get in general, but especially from everyone there, is quite literally making my quality of life better because I get to dedicate time on things like this and testing stuff out and bettering my skills and just taking time to make stuff with my hands. And that's such an incredible gift that y'all give me. And yeah, I cannot say thank you enough. It means a lot that y'all like the stuff that I do, and that any of you want to spend time hanging out with me on the internet is super rad. Thanks for sticking with me even when I'm a real grumpy bastard sometimes. Anyways, I think next week is going to be a Bert project because I haven't done something for him in a while, and I'm really excited about the thing I made. I did already do it, so like I know what is gonna happen and how it goes, but it is real cute because anything involving the bean is cute. It makes me very happy. That dog brings me so much joy. So I will see you back here with that next Friday. Thank you so much for hanging out. Backdoor sewing. Is that a term? I feel like that implies something less appropriate than what I mean, but here we are.